I've been investing into real estate for the better part of 11 to 12 years. But for longer than that, I've always believed that personal development is at the core of every decision you make. So you can leverage the wisdom from the last 11 years of investing from myself so you can go and upgrade your own life. If you're interested in what my thoughts are, definitely keep watching. Hey guys, my name's Ravi and welcome back to Personal Finance with Ravi Sharma. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button because I talk about real estate, all things personal development and financial freedom. Now, if you are new here, I urge you to go and watch the catalog of videos that I've been making over the better part of the last 4.5 years. And if you don't know who I am, I run one of Australia's fastest growing buyers agencies with currently a team of almost 40 full-time staff. We get to help everyday Australians like yourself to go and purchase property anywhere in Australia. So if you want to find out any more information about that, I'll leave links in the description below. Now let's jump straight into the lessons that I've learned, and I'll do my best to keep it short, concise, but also bring you as much value as possible. The reason why you watch these videos or read books and listen to podcasts is so that you can leverage that learning by not having to make the mistakes yourself and experiencing them. Instead, you can leverage someone else experiencing that so that you don't have to make those same mistakes. Now, before I continue, the other thing I'm going to mention is this is available ad-free on YouTube as well as Spotify video. So if you're someone who spends most time on Spotify, definitely go check it out there. If you're someone that's listening on Spotify but didn't know it was on YouTube, go and do the opposite. So you can absorb the video and the audio completely ad-free. And with that, let's jump in. Now, in no particular order, number one is speed really does matter. There are so many people out there, and you might be one of these people, where you've thought about doing something and it takes you forever to actually action something. Now, this is completely normal. You might be someone that has a lower risk threshold and you might say, okay, I want to buy an investment property and I might be ready to buy right now, but I need to gather my information before I make that decision. Now, with something like real estate or something like shares and investing, the market will move with or without you. So what you want to be doing is jumping on the train so you catch as much of the gains as possible. Now, you'll hear often, time in the market is better than timing the market. Now, if you can do both, that is when you make exponential gains. Now, the reason why we have this saying, which is time in the market is better than timing the market, is because it was to encourage you to just start. But the reality is, if you can take on all the lessons I teach you in this video, you're not only going to be able to be in the market for longer, but you'll also know when to get in and when to get out. Now, if you're in Australia and you've seen the property market in somewhere like Perth, you would have loved to have bought a couple of years ago. But if you went further back, you would have hated to be in the market in 2010, 2011, because that's when we saw the market peak and go the other way. So this is where timing really does matter. So if you had bought in 2010 and you waited for the next 10 years, you pretty much made no gains and in some years would have had negative returns. But if you simply got in 2020 and 2021, you would have made a shitload of money. And I know this because we helped a lot of clients get property back then as well. And it was so difficult to go, hey, the metrics that we're looking at, all the data points we do research on is suggesting to us we're going to see a lot of price appreciation. But unfortunately for a lot of people, when they were seeing what's happened in the last 10 years, they were using that as a guide to say, well, it's probably not going to grow in this second half. What I mean by the second half is the second half of the 18.6 year cycle. If you want to know more about that, you should definitely go check out this video where I made a deep dive video around the land cycles and how it may play out here in Australia. Of course, you got to go through the information gathering stage and research process, but you need to be accountable to yourself. If you're simply taking way too long to do this, you're going to miss out on any opportunities that actually pop up. And you might even find yourself getting into analysis paralysis. I see it where you watch these videos, then you go and talk to 3 other people and there's 3 different opinions going there. What I would urge you to think about is what resonates with you the most. Is it what I say to you on these videos, or is it someone who's got less experience, probably hasn't got the runs on the board, and it's still affecting the decision-making process? These are the sort of things that you need to ask yourself when it comes to real estate investing, but also personal development. If you're someone that thinks about reading a book or you really want to go to the gym, but if you're not actually doing it, it doesn't matter. So if you're in your 20s and 30s, you're younger, you can make a lot more mistakes and still make it out. All you need is one of those opportunities to really work for you. And that's how you're going to end up making so much more money in your 40s and 50s because you action things, you moved at speed. Number 2, your network is your net worth. Now, I did not understand this for the first 5 years of my 20s, and I thought this is a load of crap. It doesn't matter who you know, it's just you got to get the job done, you got to work as hard as possible, and everything else follows. Now, there is some truth to that. Yes, you've got to work hard, and no one's just going to give you things on a silver platter. But knowing the right people gets you into the right conversations. Now, you may have been forwarded this video or the YouTube algorithm shared this to you, But if you didn't know this video existed, you wouldn't know the information that's on it. And that's similar to everyday life. You might be out there talking to one person, but because you didn't talk to someone else, you don't know what knowledge they have to offer you or what value they can bring to you. Now I'll tell you a story. I met this one person and we ended up having a chat, and I said, hey, this would be the biggest waste of my time if I didn't go and ask them about X, Y, and Z. I go on to ask them a couple of other questions. They then go and introduce me to two other friends, and one of the two other friends actually works at my company now. And the important part to all of this is that you need to be out there having conversations and leveraging other people's experiences. There's a lot that you can offer a lot of people, you just don't know it yet. And once you can provide value to someone, that relationship is a win-win. And believe me, the opportunities that come across my table now because of simply knowing a couple of people, having strong relationships and conversations with, is absolutely mind-blowing. I totally believe this to be true, and the only thing I wish is that I invested in this a lot more, a lot earlier. Number 3 is compounding growth. You need to know that when you start, it's always going to be slower, it's always going to be smaller numbers, and you just have to trust the process. When I purchased my first property at the age of 21, it was a really affordable property. It was around $200,000. And when I thought about it, I thought, okay, even if I get 5% growth, I'm only making $10,000. This doesn't really make sense. How am I supposed to retire in 10 years' time if I wanted to, because I'm only making $10,000 now? But what happens is it could be $10,000 in the first year. In the second year, it compounds further the year after, and it continues getting higher. So what could grow in the beginning by only $10,000 could end up growing by $40,000 or $50,000 only 10 to 15 years later. And this is the power of compounding growth. For reference, that property that was bought for about $200,000 is now worth close to $500,000. And this is the power of compounding growth, and is why you need to not just apply it when it comes to real estate investing, you need to apply it to your own habits, because one habit compounds into another. If you read 10 minutes today and it becomes 10 minutes tomorrow, chances are you're probably enjoying what you read. And the third and fourth day, you're now compounding the learnings from the first couple of pages to the learnings that you're making now in chapter 4, 5, and 6. This is so important when you go through life. It's not just advice for someone in their 20s, it really applies to all age groups. Number 4 is delayed gratification. Now, unfortunately, right now, everything is about instant gratification. You could sit there on a Friday night, open up your phone, and you're just scrolling through to see so many people out there having a really good time. Apparently, they've got all the friends in the world, they're very popular, and you are sitting on your couch doing nothing. Now, you might also be in a position where you're in a relationship that you're not happy in, and then you're looking at all these people that are your friends and they're out there and they're single, and you're like, hey, the grass is greener on the other side, and I just want that instant gratification. Problem is, those things are short term. What you want to do is look forward. Look at the bigger picture. The amount of people that I have spoken to that have gone out there and said, I just quit my job because I couldn't handle it. Okay, but now you want to get a loan, which you now can't do, and it probably doesn't happen for the next 3 to 6 months. So that one short-term blip now can cost you a lot of money. And that's the same thing in your relationships as well, with your friends, your family, and your siblings. And when it comes to instant gratification, the way that I look at it is I would much rather invest when I can, while still enjoying my life and not living off tuna cans, because we all know I love a KFC Zinger box. But I believe you can do both. I don't think you need to go out there and say, I need a house because everyone told me to buy a house. I invest all of my money, my partner and I's income is all tied up in this one mortgage, and then I find myself not living my best life, and then I complain about it, only to then quit my job, and then I'm back into square one. I'm a prisoner to this mortgage. Instead, I could go out there, invest, rent where I like to live, forget about what everyone else says, and then I can go and purchase my dream house when I decide to. By just kicking the can down the road a little bit when it comes to your investing and the thesis that you have around your strategy, you can end up getting so much more, but it definitely is a balancing act. You need to figure out what your best life is now, so you're manifesting that, but you also need to be happy because that is what allows you to manifest the dream life moving forward. Next up we have is diversification. Now, you would go on to think that I was going to say diversification is the best thing ever and that's what you should do. I would go on to say, instead of going out there trying to learn about everything, why not pick 2 to 3 things that are your favorite things that you're most passionate about? And for me, that was real estate. So for me, I started going, okay, I know that there's people that make a lot of money in shares, there's people that go and run businesses, but that to me right now doesn't seem tempting. What I want to learn about is real estate. So for a couple of years, that's all I did. I was learning, I was listening, and I couldn't invest. But once I could invest, it was the first place I went to. I invested into real estate solely and didn't look at anything else for a while. Then I came across this concept of diversification and I started saying, okay, well, I'll dabble a little here and I'll dabble a little there. I ended up selling all of the shares that I held, went back into real estate because that's what I knew well. And now I have like a 3-pillar approach. Pick 3 things, invest heavy into it when it comes to learning, and absolutely execute with speed on those 3 things. And for me, one of the biggest things has now been the business. Going and focusing on getting the right talent to scale up the business is key to the success of that. And my attention needs to be there, whilst real estate, this machine that I built in the background, can continue compounding as it grows. If you're interested in all the behind the scenes, you should definitely go check out the vlog series we've created on this channel. I'll leave a playlist up here and it'll probably have a link in the description below. Definitely go check it out. It's called Behind the Agency. It shares a lot around our journey towards becoming the biggest and best buyers agency in Australia to help as many of you out there. It's a perfect segue into the next point, which is passion over money. Unfortunately, because the cost of living crisis is where it's at, of unaffordable housing and everything in between means that we always prioritize short-term gains with money. We would often go for a role that will pay us so much more than just taking a sideways move or reducing our pay and our lifestyle to go into something we're passionate about. We all know people that are out there that have taken up a job or are doing a job right now that they actually don't enjoy, but they do it because it pays well. And unfortunately, we put ourselves into these positions to force ourselves to like something that we actually don't like. Now, this to me sounds very short term. If you're looking for a career or you're looking at what you're going to do for the next 20, 30 years, you want to be figuring out what your passion is, what gets you up in the morning, and what you can do without looking at the clock. Because if you're at work and you're looking at the clock, chances are you're not truly passionate about that. And what the craziest thing is that more people should be telling you about is once you follow your passion, the money follows that. And you end up making more money than ever before because you're willing to work so much harder and it won't even feel like work because, hey, you really enjoy it. And I know this concept is so foreign for so many people. I'm truly living through this right now. I'll work on the weekends, I'll work late at nights because it's a choice. Now, I would much rather do that than to be sitting there and watching some Netflix show. Now, don't get me wrong, I definitely love watching Netflix shows, and trust me, I binged all of Ozark when it had come out, but in this season of my life, that is exactly what I want to do. And the biggest point of fulfillment for me is that that work directly correlates with someone like yourself. If I'm helping someone and they're getting further ahead in life, that is so powerful for me to keep pushing forward and is why we grow the agency to where it is now. Next up is build the machine. I used to speak about this a lot in 2020 and 21 on the channel when I thought I had to wear a business shirt and I had to fit in, and now I figured out that the black t-shirt was the right way to go all along. Shout out to all the OG listeners. But you have to build a machine. I don't care if you're in your 20s, 30s and 40s, if you have to reduce your lifestyle, you need to start building a machine yesterday. And what I mean by the machine is you need to have an investment portfolio that continues growing passively. You might be in a really high paying job, but if you lose that job tomorrow, do you have a machine that you can show for it? And if you don't, that is the first thing you need to be doing after this video. You need to go out there and either get educated or outsource the entire thing. There's a reason why you haven't done it yet. And so if you haven't done it yet, you're probably best to outsource it. What you want to do is you want to build out this machine that could really start with real estate at the foundation, then you can diversify and add other things onto it. But you need this thing to sit in the background and continue just compounding in growth. It's that concept of compounding growth and delayed gratification. I know that I'm building a machine, and when I want that machine to then pump out more cash flow or give me more choice in the future, it can do that. So it would be like a farmer that goes out there and says, okay, these plants here take a lot longer to grow. These ones here are a lot easier to grow, they're faster. By no means am I a farmer and I have no experience in this, but this is the concept. Let's just call it vegetable 1. And this vegetable 1 can actually grow a lot faster in a short amount of time, but it sells for 10% of what this over here sells for. Vegetable 2 though takes twice as long, but sells for 10x the price. Now for me, what I want to do is, well, I need to be fast with my hands, I need to live today. So I'm going to focus here, that's my active investment. But over here, I can just keep sending a few seeds and being patient, because this machine here is going to pay for everything else I need. If you guys want a video around how this relates to real estate investing when it comes to cash flow versus capital growth, definitely leave me a comment down below saying capital growth versus cash flow, and I'll make that one for you guys. Only a couple more points here that I have to share, but if you're enjoying this video, definitely hit that subscribe button. Next up is try, then buy. Now that makes no sense for most people because you're like, do I try on clothes and then buy the clothes? How does it work? No, my version of this is in your 20s, you need to try everything. You need to go out there, and if you've got an itch, you need to scratch it. At this point in time, you can make money online, you can make them after hours and everything in between. So if you're someone that is very curious, go and try a bunch of things. If you're out there wanting to learn how something works, maybe you just got to have some scar tissue, be ready to lose some money in there and just try it out. What you'll eventually find is one of those things will become an opportunity where your passion meets the opportunity and market demand. And what you'll be able to do is bring the two together, end up finding a career in your 20s, so in your 30s and 40s, you're not walking around miserable like most people are at the moment. What you do is you invest your time into trying things, because that's when you're going to have the most of it in your 20s. When you get to your 30s and 40s, you've got more commitments, and if you've got a family, it's going to be so hard to try and pivot. Not impossible, but definitely a lot harder. And that's why starting earlier when it comes to investing and building the machine, as well as going out there and trying a bunch of different things, the risk is a lot lower. I've often said to people that if you don't enjoy what you do now, in 5 years' time, your health's going to get affected. You're not going to enjoy it then. The frequency that you put out is going to be negative, which means the people that are going to be around you are also going to be negative, and it seems pretty depressing. All why? Because you wanted to keep a house. I would go on to say, sell the house, go and rent somewhere, and then find what your passion is. In 5 to 10 years, you're actually going to find yourself in a better position, and I know that it's a scary thought. But trust me, when you come out the other end, you're going to thank yourself for making those decisions 5 years ago, just like right now you may have regrets of not doing that one opportunity 2 years ago. The next point probably should have been the most important is have a strategy. Now, I'm not saying you need a roadmap of exactly when certain things will happen, but you need to have a bit of a flow to what you're doing. You need to know that there's a certain direction you're taking in it. And if you don't know that, then what you're going to find is the next time something shiny pops up, that's where your attention will go. It's like the Matrix when Neo's walking through and then there's this girl in the red dress and that takes his attention. And that is what can cost you the biggest opportunities in life and is why you need a strategy. You need to have conviction around that strategy as well. And the last point I'll make is do not listen to average people. I know that we have a bunch of these people around us that give us their advice even though we don't want to hear them. I have my uncle, which I've mentioned plenty of times on this channel, who wants to give me all of his advice around all of his life experiences when it comes to real estate investing, businesses, and running things. But he's never run a business in his life. He has like one investment property and he's just held it for the longest period ever and nobody really values his opinion. But that pretty much summarizes some people in our own lives. And I know you have this around you as well. And what you need to factor in is that if you do what the average tell you to do, you will end up average. And what you are here for is not to live an average life, because we already know what that looks like. It's the certainty of knowing you can retire at 65, get a couple of $100 from the government and call it a day. But that sounds pretty depressing to me. And if you're here and wanting to make that change and you want to retire earlier or retire on your own terms, then you need to do things that the average are not doing. I've obviously purchased a lot of real estate in my time. I've also helped a lot of clients purchase so much real estate over the years. And I've seen every strategy pretty much at this point. So when you go ahead and you say, okay, I'm going to leverage someone's experience or I'm going to outsource this to someone else, you're leveraging not just my expertise, but all the expertise that I've got around me when it comes to my networks, as well as the people that I'm actually speaking to. So if you need any help with any of the stuff we've spoken about, getting started with speed, delayed gratification, knowing what to invest in, knowing what your why is, and how to get above average results, then definitely like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and if you need the help, definitely reach out to me. There's going to be a link in the description below where you can book a call directly with our team, the people that literally sit next to me, and that's the sort of speed and attention to detail we need when we go and upgrade our lives. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, smash that like button and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks guys.